live on YouTube. We are live on Periscope. And Bruce, this is one of the biggest days in free agency history in the National Football League. This is one of the crazier days that we have, Bruce. And I'm here with my guy, Sports Doc, and we're going to be breaking it all down. So, Bruce, obviously, the headline is Tom Brady. Tom Brady, not a Patriot anymore. He is a Tampa Bay Buc.
So, yes, after 20 years of playing with one franchise, 6 world championships, Tom Brady has made his move, and it happened quickly, where this morning he announced that he was leaving the Patriots. He thanked everybody from Bob Kraft. He thanked Bill Belichick. He thanked the fans, and he made it clear that he was making a move. And then Adam Schefter broke this around 5 o'clock today that, in fact, Tom Brady was going to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And there's a lot of reasons for this. We're going to break it down. But that's the big story. After 20 years, Tom Brady, to see him in a different uniform, to see him with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and to see him with a new head coach ought to be really interesting. We want to hear and see all the comments as we are on Rover Sports. We are on a Tuesday night here from our Philly bunker, and we're bringing people on from Periscope, from YouTube, from Instagram.
Yes.
And Spencer's got that amazing mic, and I've got this. I feel like Mike Bloomberg. You know what this is called?
Mini Mike.
This is Mini Mike.
Wow, I'm actually in a live producer mode, which I never knew.
Pretty cool.
Could actually occur on Facebook. However, I want to go back and I want to try to. I mean, we did have good viewership on your Facebook, but we're having trouble titling it at the very moment. Tom Brady, officially a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. I was trying to listen to everything that you were talking about. And we also have a comment in here from Barry Salat. He's calling you Mr. Microphone.
Mr. Mike, otherwise known as Mini Microphone.
Mini Mike. Yep, you'll be Mini Mike Bloomberg, I guess, in this scenario. But
I'm just spending a lot less money for this Mini Mike. If I actually spent the right money, it would be for one of those beautiful Shure bikes that you have.
We're gonna have fun on this show, guys.
Let's have some fun.
That's the bottom line. So we're gonna cut this thing loose, and we're just gonna enjoy our time. And if you know, maybe some of the jokes might be in poor taste coming up, maybe they won't be, but we're just gonna let this thing go. And the fact is, Tom Brady going to the Bucs. When you think of Tampa, Florida, you think of a lot of strip clubs, you think of Chili's, and you think of really hot chicks, and you think of the pirate. You think of the pirate ship. You think of that loud, booming pirate ship that is in that end zone.
Yep.
It just seems to me that the Tampa Bay Bucs, who really don't have any fan base at all, they're pretty much a failing, losing franchise that really haven't had any good quarterback play. It just seems like for Tom Brady to go from the epicenter of sports to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is kind of like a fringe franchise. I think Tampa Bay might even be like the 25th largest market in the NFL. I think it's a very small market. They can barely fill Raymond James Stadium. When I watch Giants games there, Giants fans take over. When you watch the Eagles go to Tampa, you'll see more green in that stadium. Doesn't it seem for Tom Brady of this stature to go to this kind of little franchise such as the Bucs? At least if he was playing with the Chargers, he'd have that huge stadium. If he was playing with the Cowboys or Chicago Bears or a traditional team, it just seems pretty odd that he would land on Tampa Bay.
In my opinion, it's not that odd. Number one, it's very good weather. He doesn't want to play in a cold weather market. Bruce Arians is a very transformational coach. He's very interesting. He's got a great personality.
Yes.
And I believe that under Belichick, Tom Brady really could never be Tom. He was always going to be in that kind of system, which we could say is very authoritarian, dictatorial, if you'd like. But the fact Bruce Arians is going to give him all, he's just going to free him up for all kinds of fun and for him to really play a big role. And I'm sure he's going to bring a lot of the New England offense to Bruce Arians, and it's going to be fun. He's also got Mike Evans, who's a top-line receiver. So the big criticism of certainly the New England Patriots is that they just go through. It's like a revolving door. Other than Randy Moss, it's a revolving door of average wide receivers. Here he's got a really nice supporting cast, and he's also right near Clearwater Beach, which is beautiful. And Tampa and Clearwater is just a nice area. It's going to be comfortable. I think his family's going to be really happy.
I think Tampa is actually awesome. And I think that his family should move there. I don't get why they're living in New York. Maybe it's some kind of special job, but I think you can accomplish anything anywhere. Or I think that Giselle can do her business in Tampa just as good as the epicenter, New York City. But this move, to me, the one thing about this move for Tom Brady is that I think it's highly doubtful that Tom Brady on the Buccaneers this year is even going to make the playoffs. Because in the NFC South, you now have Joe Brady going from LSU, leading one of the most special offenses in the history of collegiate football. He's going now to Carolina. You have Teddy Two Gloves Bridgewater, who, because of his sweaty hands, has to wear two gloves on his hands. He's a great quarterback. And I can identify.
And he's going to Carolina Panthers.
He's going to the Carolina Panthers. But Drew Brees is the king in that division. Drew Brees is the master. He is the guy in that division. Tom Brady, he doesn't know what he's getting himself into here. Drew Brees has been running the South for pretty much, I'd say, the last 20 years, however long Brees has been there since Katrina. So I think that the Saints are going to win that division. You look at Bruce Arians and this team, there's no running game to speak of, okay? Can you even name their running backs? Because I can barely name their running backs.
There's one running back who I'm just not recalling, but he's an average running back.
So say it. Let's guess.
You don't have to play that game.
Try to name. How many defensive players can you name? Yeah, okay. The point is their defense any good? No.
I think they're medium. I heard they're medium defense.
Medium. Well, you have Devin White out of LSU, who's a linebacker I really like. You have Todd Bowles, who,
defensive coordinator.
They called him Toilet Bowles in Jets.
They like him.
But he was a really good defensive coordinator. They like him as
defensive coordinator.
Right. You have Bruce Arians there. You have Carolina. Then you have Atlanta with Matt Ryan. They have an abundance of talent. That isn't going to be an easy game for Tom Brady to win.
Well, I think that Tom Brady will be a game changer. Matt Ryan is only getting worse. I think that the Panthers are definitely in transition right now, despite Teddy Bridgewater. I'll take Tom Brady every day of the week for sure.
Yeah, okay.
And I think Bruce Arians is a great coach, so I think it's going to be fun. I never was a big Patriots fan, but when a guy's 43 years old, he's going to a new place. There's going to be a lot of enthusiasm generated by this move. What do you think, Spence?
Oh, it's spectacular. And I love that he's in the NFC now, and the Giants are going to be playing the Bucs. And I really, in all seriousness, I love the move for Brady, because as much as I was just telling you how hard it was going to be for Tampa to make a run, if you were out there in the LA Charger land with a head coach in Anthony Lynn that I'm not even sure is a good head coach, at least we know Bruce Arians is a legit head coach. Also, do you want to be playing against Denver and Kansas City, the world champions? As good as the Saints are, it's not like playing against Mahomes every year twice. So I think a lot of people in LA just wanted I think a lot of people in LA just wanted Tom Brady to be in LA because they just want to cover him. They're all selfish. Like people in the media, Bruce, most of them are selfish people that just wanted Brady in a bigger market, okay? Most of them were just looking out for their own tail.
Well, in my opinion, a lot of reasons he didn't go to the LA Chargers. Number one, you're going there, you're always going to be a second fiddle. The LA Chargers are much like the LA Clippers are to the Lakers. They're going to be a second fiddle to the Rams. And also, obviously, that franchise has had a revolving door. Philip Rivers just left there. But if you were going there, it just wouldn't be as exciting with Anthony Lynn as the head coach and being a second fiddle. Again, you're in LA, but I think Tom Brady's brand is transcendent. He could certainly flourish in Florida. There's also somebody mentioned about the tax structure. The tax structure in Florida, I don't believe they have a state tax, which is great. They also have something called a Homestead Act, which is interesting. no matter what happens in the government, they can never, they can never take your house in Florida. So if you are a libertarian, if you like freedom, then Florida is
free or die.
is a free market. Live free or die.
Don't tread on me. That
guess
sort
what?
of attitude.
Guess where live free or die from? What state is that?
Alabama. No, Missouri. New Hampshire.
New Hampshire.
I got it on the first try.
There's also some breaking news in the field.
Show me state.
Yeah, we're going to talk about some breaking news in the field of politics. It looks like, speaking of breaking it wide open, Joe Biden is breaking it wide open. He is winning the state of Florida. He's winning the state of Illinois. He's on the precipice
Are you kidding me right now?
Clinching the Democratic national position as a candidate for president. And I, for one, am very happy because
that's great.
Because I am for something called democracy, America. Not a big socialist. So I know some of you guys are Bernie. Some of you guys are Bernie bros, but
you're
you know
making me sweat. I don't want to talk about politics on YouTube, but I can't control you. The goose is loose.
That's right.
So I'm not going to limit you, though, Bruce. You could say whatever you want.
So I'm saying
I'm not going to reveal mine. I'm going to keep my cards close.
So what I'm saying
is, the deck
I'm not saying that I'm a Biden supporter, but he's my favorite of the Democratic candidates. And it is a big win for him. There's also something we haven't talked about in the city of Buffalo. Stephon Diggs.
Yes.
From Minnesota.
There we go. I can breathe a sigh of relief. I'm not sweating like Sean Miller anymore.
No reason to sweat when you talk politics here. Because you know what? We're in America, First Amendment. We've got people jumping on. We got Trump people who love or hate him. It says Biden's a frozen burrito. There's just a lot of great There's a lot of great comments here from our staff. And Top Streams wants to talk about Diggs.
Let's do it.
Let's go right now.
I love Stephon Diggs going to the freaking Buffalo Bills, okay? This is the best wide receiver they've had since Andre Reed. I'm jacked about this because for Josh Allen, he finally gets a number one weapon. Stephon Diggs, you look at Amari Cooper, and you keep on moving the mic so far in front of me that I could barely even speak.
Well, but it's just too loud, so that's why I'm
Amari Cooper is basically – Amari Cooper is, I would say Stephon Diggs maybe just as good as Cooper. Now Stephon Diggs in Minnesota, let's call it how he is. He acted like a child at times in Minnesota, okay? Trying to get out of Minnesota, blaming Kirk Cousins, going off on social media, okay? A little bit dramatic. Not as dramatic as Odell Beckham, and Stephon Diggs is a guy who shows up every single week. I think that in Buffalo with Josh Allen, a guy that can really rep Buffalo, this is the biggest superstar signing in free agency for the Buffalo Bills in the past 25 to 30 years, okay? Long before I was born. So this is one of the biggest opportunities for the Buffalo Bills. And I think that Stephon Diggs is a star receiver. You're only paying him $10 million for 4 years. Yeah, you had to give away a first-round pick. Yeah, you gave away a fourth-round pick. But guess what? You know what fourth-round picks are? They're like dartboards. You're throwing money at dartboards. That's what is happening when you're talking about fourth-round picks. So I think this move for the Buffalo Bills, I'm excited. For the first time in 30 years, the Buffalo Bills have a promising future, have a promising season right on the precipice of beginning.
I agree. I think it's a great move for the Bills. And looking, too, at Minnesota, what do you think? How is that going to affect them losing Diggs? Is that going to be a loss for them?
I think for Minnesota, well, Diggs was a disaster there. I mean, Diggs didn't want to be there anymore. So you don't want to keep someone who's so unhappy there. He was pretty much burning all his bridges. And I didn't like how he did it because I think Kirk Cousins and Thielen, I think that was a really good roster. I always am an advocate of somebody sticking it out. And I think that Diggs at times, I wasn't a fan of how he acted in Minnesota, but in Buffalo, fresh slate, and this guy is a star. And Buffalo needs that kind of pop where Minnesota, I don't think they needed the pop. I think the Bills need a little star power. And with how young Josh is and the contract of Allen, for Kirk Cousins, Bruce, they need to focus on defense. That's Mike Zimmer's calling card. And I think that Minnesota needs to focus on defense. And then Minnesota also gets a couple of picks back. I wouldn't be surprised to see them draft a wide receiver in this gold mine for wide receiver drafts.
There's also some news. We're right here. We are Rover Sports. I'm Sports Doc. That's what I do. I'm a Sports Doc. I'm here with Spencer G. And what does he do? He's a broadcaster. And here in Philadelphia, just the same way it was announced that Tom Brady would leave, the most important and influential player on the team here is Malcolm Jenkins. He's been here for 6 years. He's been the unquestioned leader of the defense. He's played almost every snap and every down. And he decided he was not going to play. I believe he had a contract for $13 million a year. He was not going to honor his contract. And he demanded that Howie Roseman renegotiate the contract or he was leaving. And the Eagles made a sea change today. They determined that they're letting Malcolm Jenkins go. He has been released from the Eagles, even though he's under contract. No doubt he'll be picked up somewhere else. But in another very small move, a guy who is rumored to leave, Jalen Mills, LSU seventh-round pick, has been re-signed for a one-year deal. And I believe this is by necessity because the Eagles are decimated at cornerback. They're letting Ronald Darby go, a guy named Sidney Jones. One of the only times in history where a team drafts a cornerback with a torn Achilles from the University of Washington. In retrospect, one of the worst draft picks ever for the Philadelphia Eagles because the one place you need speed and agility is at corner. And the one injury, which is the slowest to recover, is the Achilles. So Sidney Jones never got back, totally lost his confidence. He will be released this season. And right now, the Eagles are going to be scrambling to find cornerbacks, pass rushers, and wide receivers. And so far, they've been very inactive, and people here in Philly are getting very restless.
I kind of understand why, but at the same time, you listen to what that player from the Cowboys last year, Scandrick. I mean,
Orlando Scandrick.
I think Malcolm Jenkins is polarizing. Okay, I think he always needs to be the guy that's always in front of the microphone, that always needs to be an alpha kind of guy, kind of like Brian Dawkins was to the Eagles. I think he's a guy that always likes to be the leader of the team, the heartbeat, the guy saying the speeches. And it worked in Philadelphia. And he had a very good career here. He did a lot for the community in Philadelphia. And I think that he was a very, very talented player. And he also sparks fear in opponents. He's very, very smart on and off the field. And I look at Malcolm Jenkins, and he's old, though. He's like 33 or 34 years old. So he's older. He probably wanted more money.
He definitely wanted more money. In fact, he said he wouldn't play on his current deal. And one thing about certain franchises, the Eagles being one of them, they don't really like when a player holds them up and says, I'm not playing on the deal. The most famous player like that was Terrell Owens, who basically, after playing, essentially after, hurt on the Super Bowl, being a borderline MVP, basically just wanted more money, and they stonewalled him completely. That was the end. That was the demise of the 2004 Eagles. That rift, and I'm hoping that won't be the case. But Malcolm Jenkins is the leader of this defense. The one thing about this team is it's a very meek, mild team, doesn't have a lot of leadership at all, not a fiery group in any way. And a lot of the guys, obviously, Jason Kelsey's a fiery guy. Other people that were there, Chris Long was a leader. He's gone now. Michael Bennett, outspoken leader, he's gone. So they've basically been draining all the guys with outspoken personalities. And when you have a meek team without leadership in football, it doesn't often portend success.
Yeah, but, Michael Bennett is a guy that's worn out his welcome in multiple of other places. And Malcolm Jenkins, I mean, you know what I think about Malcolm Jenkins? I think that he doesn't love being in Philadelphia that much. That's my opinion because you know what? He's just a guy that's just trouble. I mean, for him to not go on his deal, he held the Eagles hostage here. The Eagles wanted to keep him, and Malcolm Jenkins was greedy in this instance. And you have to admit that that's going to be a mark on his legacy against Malcolm Jenkins. Don't you think that he pouted, he cried, and he wouldn't play on his contract? Don't you agree with that, Bruce?
I do, and I don't.
That's a big mark against
the fact of the matter is there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it quietly, and I think the Eagles should have moved a little bit on him. He is one of the guys who forces fumbles. He is, for a team that has no pass rush, he's actually a pretty good pass rusher. And I think losing him is you're losing the heart, you're losing the spirit of the team. And I don't want to predict negativity, but certainly he's not going to be replaced.
But it's not the Eagles' fault.
They will not. They might be able to replace him in terms of youth. I don't think they're going to be able to replace him in terms of talent and leadership. That's my own
So you
view.
think the Eagles should have paid him more money?
A little bit more, and they should have done it quietly. I think there's fault to go around on both sides.
Okay. Interesting there. Interesting. We're trying to workshop this out. We got some Niners people in here. They want me to talk about the Niners.
Sure. Well, the first thing is
What?
Tom Brady didn't go to the Niners. It was reported that was on his list, and the Niners wanted to keep Jimmy Garoppolo. They did not want to go to Tom Brady. And I think I'd say 85 to 90% of the Niners fans are really happy about that. They love Jimmy G, and they felt that the franchise was strong and said, look, we're supporting him. He didn't have the best Super Bowl, admittedly, but they were in position to win that game. And Jimmy G has a great upside. I wouldn't be surprised to see the Niners back in the bowl next year.
Yeah, and for the Patriots, I mean, what could have been with Bill Belichick. I think that Robert Kraft, the decision to trade Jimmy Garoppolo, that might cost Bill Belichick years of his job, because I don't know. Bill Belichick is how old right now? Is he in his 60s? It's funny. He looks like he's really old because he's always in that gray sweatshirt and he's always not.
He's
smiling.
not that old. I think he's about 62, and it's not that old. And
no, it's not.
There's plenty of coaches who could play a lot longer. And that there's a question
He's
from
one of the older coaches, but I'm getting to a point here.
Okay,
I'm getting to a point, but I'm sorry, I'll get to the point faster. I think that Bill Belichick is not going to be that patient with a rookie quarterback. And if they stuck with Jimmy Garoppolo, they would have their franchise quarterback of the future. I think John Lynch absolutely destroyed the Patriots on that deal. I think it could be one of the worst trades of all time, especially if Garoppolo wins 2 Super Bowls, which I believe will happen. I think that trade's going to go down because you could have continued the dynasty, and instead now the Patriots are left without an answer.
And we look at the Patriots quarterback situation, it looks pretty bleak in the sense that all they have is Stidham, who basically is an unproven quarterback. And there are rumors that the Red Rifle might come to the New England Patriots. I'm not a big Red Rifle fan, but I don't know how many choices there are. There's always Cam Newton. I don't know where he's going to end up. I think there's a lot of speculation there. But I think that Dalton is a guy who at least has good mechanics. I think he's good work ethic. He's a guy I think could fit in and could snap into the Patriot system probably better than Cam Newton, who's a free spirit, kind of a Jimmy Butler kind of character.
Wild guy. Can't even write his messages in regular Word. His font that he writes it in is some kind of Chinese font on his Instagram page. But I think that Cam Newton is too much of a runner for the McDaniels offense. I think Cam Newton is remarkably better than Andy Dalton. I mean, Andy Dalton doesn't get me excited at all. A quarterback that I believe.
Sorry about that.
I don't want to have reverberations of my own voice. But you know what I would like? I think Davis Webb going to the Patriots. I mean, nobody is talking about that. Nobody's talking about Davis Webb possibly going to the Patriots. What do you think about Davis Webb going to the Patriots? Or what do you think about Mitchell Trubisky going to the Patriots on a nice cheap deal? I'm thinking Webb. I think Webb is a good option. You already have Jarrett Stidham, who has a lightning arm, okay? Jarrett Stidham, big arm quarterback, really athletic. You have Stidham. You also have Justin Herbert that the Pats could trade up for. I think the Patriots are in a wonderful situation right now.
Well, I'm also a Justin Herbert fan. I think he'd do very well under the tutelage of Bill Belichick. As far as Andy Dalton, I'm not that excited about it.
Yeah. How about Webb?
You're a big Webb fan. I think Webb has always, unfortunately, been relegated to being a third quarterback. He'd be lucky to be a third quarterback on that team. And it seems like his confidence and playing ability, have receded over the last few years. And I think he'll be lucky to latch on to a team this year.
How about Trubisky?
Trubisky's an interesting guy. You were arguing yesterday in a podcast with many of these same wonderful people on Rover Sports here in Philly on our all of our different platforms. You argued that this is the time. Seize the day. Carpe diem.
Yeah.
Time to sign
really
Mitchell Trubisky. And are you deviating from that? You're staying with that?
No. I think the Bears should sign him to a 5-year deal worth $100 million, $20 million a year, because you get Mitchell Trubisky and you get him cheap. Because just last year, Mitchell Trubisky was in talks for an MVP type season. I mean, everybody was talking about how great Trubisky is. And then I heard somebody, this guy Luis, who is a really good listener of the show, he was arguing with me yesterday that Teddy Bridgewater and Ryan Tannehill are both light years ahead of Mitchell Trubisky. Now, if I told you that 365 days ago when Teddy Bridgewater hasn't taken a snap in what seems like 10 decades, and also Ryan Tannehill is too busy with his wife bringing shotguns to the airport, he's too busy calling out the practice squad in Miami, Ryan Tannehill and Andy Dalton are basically the same exact person. So I don't understand why the Titans gave Tannehill $30 million. I mean, you could have played in that offense with Derrick Henry.
But Derrick Henry, I would have just handed the ball to Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
It would have been easy.
Exactly. And now we're giving him $30 million. And the fact is, I think actually the Panthers signing Bridgewater to $20 million a year, that's $10 million less than Tannehill. And I like Bridgewater more than Tannehill. And guess what? Bridgewater, I know that I just kind of made fun of Bridgewater for not playing, or I didn't make fun of the injury, but I just kind of said he hasn't played for a while. He played well last year. In Minnesota, he was a starting caliber quarterback. He doesn't turn the ball over. I'd be more excited about him starting at quarterback because he's a winner than Andy Dalton, because he takes care of the ball better and because he really can ignite a locker room like he ignited the Saints last year. So I really think that Bridgewater for $20 million a year, I think that is a good deal for the Carolina Panthers, who in 3 years they could draft a rookie to compete with Bridgewater right now. What do you think about that deal, though? The Bridgewater to Carolina deal.
I like the deal. I also really like Carolina. And Matt Rule is there, and Matt Rule is really good at getting the most out of players, setting up a scheme for Teddy Bridgewater, who I think is an intelligent player. He's got a decent arm. He can run, and I'm excited. You know, I'm becoming a bit of a Carolina Panthers fan. I know we have a lot of Temple Owls fans. We actually spent some time with Matt Rule, one of the nicest people around. And I believe we also have a contact. One of our nice drug reps is actually related to the football operations director. So you and I are going to be spending some time.
Congratulations on the relationship.
Yeah, we're going to be spending some time down in Carolina, you know, over the summer following the, training camp. And I'm really happy because I think Matt Rule will be very welcoming to the Rover Sports team.
Yep, exactly. And he better be welcoming.
I hope so.
No, I'm kidding.
If he's not, what are you going to do?
I'll tell him that you sandbagged the Giants. Well, not really. You allowed us to get Joseph Judge. Bruce, Tom Brady is a Buccaneer. Let's go down the list and read some of these comments here from Cameron Forrester. He says Belichick loves to make moves within the division. He could possibly try to get Josh Rosen. He says that Lalo Pass is a huge 49ers fan. So about the 49ers, I know we spoke about Brady. They also trade DeForest Buckner to the Indianapolis Colts. And DeForest Buckner is a very good defensive lineman. He has a lot of talent, but he is now worth $21 million. I think with Eric Armstead, with Solomon Thomas, I just trust John Lynch. And with Bosa and D Ford, you can't pay everybody. So I think that it's still all right. I don't think it's time to panic if you are a 49ers fan. It is sad to see Buckner go, and they just couldn't pay him.
I think that's true. The whole line was first-round draft picks. So in these days, you have to respect the salary cap, and I trust John Lynch, and I thought that was a necessary move.
Respect the cap. Phillip Rivers going to the Colts. What do you think of Indy next year?
Middle of the road. I think you're looking at an 8-8 team. I'm glad for Phillip Rivers. He's got like 10 kids. Not that he needs any more money, but I think it's good for him to get a fresh start.
Yeah.
The fans of Indianapolis are good fans.
Yeah.
He'll be able to play largely indoors in a very favorable stadium with a fast track at Lucas Oil Stadium. and kind of interesting to see him play in a different spot. Probably good for the family, good schools there, good values in Indiana. I think it's good for Philip, and I think he's a reasonable starting quarterback. And I know last year was turbulent. What they had a guy named brisket of beef, brisket of beef, and once certainly last year was a turbulent year because of the retirement, the abrupt and shocking retirement of Andrew Luck, and they really need some stability there. So I predict they're going to bring Rivers, and they're going to probably bring in a mid-round rookie quarterback, maybe somebody like a Love will come there to just be an apprentice there under Philip Rivers. But I think that's a reasonable acquisition. It doesn't surprise me too much.
Two hypotheticals here. One thing I liked what you said is Indiana's values. I love Indiana, the state of Indiana, the people there. It's humble. There's not too much going on there. And people that like to make fun of Indianapolis, I'm not sure that we'll get along, because there's nothing more that I like doing on Saturday than going to Hooters, than bowling, than hanging out at bars.
So
and drinking cheap $5 Miller Lite.
Who did we hear make fun of Indiana?
J.J. Redick.
And Jimmy Butler.
He did make fun of
him?
Yeah,
they both did.
Come on, he's from Texas. He should have known better. Here's the thing, Bruce. I'm going to give you two hypotheticals. One, Andrew Luck comes back and plays for New England.
Wow, that's an interesting hypothetical. If New England could get him to come out of retirement, that would instantaneously become the story of the year. However, what I knew was that Andrew Luck had a whole host of injuries. I believe he had knee injuries, foot injuries, back injuries, and basically he spent all of his time rehabbing and rehabilitating, and it just wore him out. So for him to have a year away from the league, for him to actually get healthy, and for him to get medical clearance to come back, I think is a very large hurdle. But if he did come back, it would be great. I'm a Luck fan. It might even make me think twice about this, liking the Patriots.
Yeah, I think that Luck could still come back to the Colts, though. And Luck is a man of principle, so I don't think it's going to happen. Here is something that actually could happen. Antonio Brown gets released from jail. He gets the handcuffs taken off of him. He happens
jail figuratively. You mean he's not technically in jail?
You're right. He's not even in jail.
He's in essentially
house arrest.
No, he's in suspension jail because of all the stupid things he did last year, threatening a woman, threatening her kids, and of course, threatening Robert Kraft, making fun of an owner in the league about a misfortunate event in a massage parlor. I'm just concerned that Antonio Brown has a form of CTE, dementia, or at minimally, a terrible psychiatric problem where he cannot control himself. And I'm not sure if he could be anything more than a distraction, despite his myriad of talents. There are some rumors that he might go to Tampa Bay to follow Tom Terrific down there.
Yeah, and Arians.
And Arians, who might, if anybody could keep him under control. I heard that rumor. Did you hear that rumor today?
I heard that rumor because Arians was the coach in Pittsburgh. And also for Antonio Brown, he has a residency in the Miami area. It would only cost him it would only be a 3-hour drive up to Tampa Bay. You look at Robert Kraft and the massage parlors. I mean, that problem isn't going away anytime soon because now with Tom Brady in Florida, Kraft is going to be spending more time there. There's going to be a lot more employment opportunities in Florida.
There's going to be
a lot of tugging.
He's going to be playing at He's going to be a place called Mons Venus, which is very well known. And Robert Kraft will probably have his own VIP lounge all to himself.
Next to James Harden.
Next, of course, to Allen Iverson.
This is great. This is getting even better. But the thing is about AB is that I would, here's the thing that could be good. One, the drug policy. I love the drug policy. I don't think this is political. Maybe it is a little bit. But I love really. That marijuana is now legal in the NFL. And I feel bad for Ricky Williams, who was living in huts in India. He could have been a stud player. But now Josh Gordon. I can't wait for Flash Gordon to come back. Maybe Flash can go play in this offense because Perryman's a free agent. if you have Flash with Bruce Arians, I'm just so happy for Bruce Arians and Tampa. This is a guy who was out of football. He was on his yacht in trying to figure the lake. Reynolds Plantation, Georgia is where he has a spot right there on Lake Oconee in Georgia. This is a guy who was driving his boat around, and now he gets back into the NFL. People thought he was too old to get back into the NFL, right? They were thinking this guy's archaic. He landed the biggest fish and prize in the history of free agency. This is just amazing for Arians, and I'm going on and on and on and on and on and on. What do you think about Josh Gordon? That's exactly.
Well, I'm going to go back to Arians. You didn't mention two of Arians' challenges. One is he had a bad heart. He had a heart attack. He was sick. He also had cancer. So Bruce Arians also beat cancer, had a heart attack. So he came back from two really debilitating medical conditions, and by all accounts was really healthy, was back to himself last year. A great Philly guy, former Temple Owls coach, one of the really good guys, one of the funnier guys out there. I wish nothing but the best. But to see Tom Brady, I'm going to probably be rooting for him very hard because I love Bruce Arians, and I just like when things get mixed around. This is a complete quarterback carousel. Do you remember a league where do you remember a year where there's so many changes in starting quarterbacks? In 1 year, I just can't remember one.
Let me think about it. Okay. The Jets. I would say the year where Darnold went to the Jets, Baker Mayfield went to the Browns.
These are rookie drafts. So how about established quarterbacks leaving? Philip Rivers leaving San Diego. How about Tom Brady leaving? The only one who's really staying is Drew Brees.
How about Big Ben?
And Big Ben will be in Pittsburgh another year.
I'll tell you, with this coronavirus, okay, and with Tom Brady leaving New England, it makes me so much happier because the season might not even start next year. Eli Manning got out at the perfect time. And it just made, as a Giants, as a guy who
you follow the Giants pretty closely.
Yeah, I follow them closely.
Of course.
Follow them closely. And for him to stay in one spot is special when you get a quarterback to stay in one spot for their whole career. It is very special. And Patriots fans, they are kind of sad. I think they're hating on Bill Belichick a little bit. And it's a weird – what's even weirder about Brady leaving is now Jarrett Stidham's the one guy left. That's what's amazing.
He's the last man standing. You'd think that Garoppolo would be there, but he's not. And you just wonder who's going to come in. And, again, we speculated earlier. Could be Andy Dalton coming in. You also talk about drafting Justin Herbert, who is 6'6", cannon arm, very quiet guy, interesting personality, who basically grew up in Oregon and has been there his whole life. So some people question Justin Herbert. They say he's too quiet to be a leader. But we've seen quiet leaders before. You remember Nick Foles? He was pretty quiet here in the Eagles. He won a Super Bowl. But, there are exceptions. And I guess there's a question, where's Nick Foles going?
I mean,
it seems like he's worn out his welcome in Jacksonville.
So DeFilippo got fired. And I think it's Jay Gruden that's there now. Minshew Mania might be taking over in Jacksonville.
And it looks to me like
I'll tell you
Foles is going to go somewhere.
I'll tell you where Nick is going to go because you posed the question.
Where's he going?
I'm going to try to give you an answer.
All right.
One summer, let me tell you a story.
Tell me a story.
Let me tell you a story.
A story about a man named Jed pulling mountaineer. Never mind. Let's continue.
With a
buggling scream. Let's continue. What's happening to Mr. Big Dick Nick Foles?
Robert Foles.
Mr. Robert Richard Big Dick Foles.
So one afternoon, Nick Foles was living in a state that we could call Kansas City, Missouri.
Kansas City, Missouri.
He was living in Kansas City. He was trudging as a third-string quarterback. He was behind one Chase Daniel, and he was behind one Alex Smith. And one day, Nick Foles was carless. He had no car. He had no ride. He had nowhere to stay.
And he was on the edge of extinction. He was like a Tyrannosaurus Rex. He was ready to retire. That's a true story.
And guess who came with his car and drove him to his destination?
Dougie Peterson?
Matt Nagy.
Really? Where did he drive him? To the Eagles or where?
He didn't drive him to Philly. He drove back to his house.
Oh, okay.
But Matt Nagy gave Nick Foles a ride. Nick Foles has never forgotten that moment. Nick Foles and Matt Nagy are like blood brothers, okay? They are very, very close. And I think that Matt Nagy would absolutely love Nick Foles. And in fact, who was the starting quarterback in the double doink playoff game? One Nick Foles. So I believe that Nick Foles, who's tied with Peterson and Matt Nagy, a very logical destination is a guy that can challenge Trubisky, because if Trubisky doesn't play well, there's nobody in relief that's better than Nick Foles.
Nick Foles is also a gentleman. He will be very professional. He will not be complaining at all. In fact, when Nick Foles retires, he's going to be a pastor. He's a man of religion and one of the best people around. There's still a statue of Nick Foles right outside of Lincoln Financial Field. So that would be a very nice landing with Matt Nagy in Chicago to back up one Mitchell Trubisky. And I think you could get Foles at a fairly cheap price at this point, because his stock has fallen since he had a fractured clavicle, came back and was really terrible, and they had to bring back Minshew. So Foles is having a parallel situation, as you alluded to, in St. Louis. And it just seems there's one place where the air is just perfect and Nick Foles flourishes, right here in the city of brotherly love, right here at the home of Rover Sports.
Indeed. I think that Nick Foles could be a bear. And pretty much the quarterback carousel has kind of worked itself out. We're still waiting to hear about Jadeveon Clowney. He's a huge free agent signing. If he goes to the Eagles, I mean, that would be so scary with Javon Hargrave now being there, Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham, and Clowney. That would be devastating for the rest of the NFC East.
They would certainly take the pressure off the back end, because right now the Eagles have Jalen Mills, they have Avante Maddox, and then they have a bag of donuts. So they're really hurting they just lost their strong safety. And they have McLeod, who they probably will re-sign now. They have to have one safety. They have to have some stability. But McLeod last year did slide off. There were a lot of games where he was fairly invisible. His ability to cover and help the cornerbacks has diminished as his speed has diminished. Here's a guy in his early 30s. So if they were to get Clowney, that would make up for a host of evils. I know the New York Giants fans are also clamoring for a little Clowney.
Yes, sir. I mean, I don't know if they can afford, but it would be tremendous. Last night, the Giants got a guy in Blake Martinez, and I was having this argument with somebody. You know, the Giants have signed 2 Packer linebackers. The guy today is a guy, unfortunately, he's 28 years old. He had 10.5 sacks one year, but under Patrick Graham. But Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, used to be with Green Bay. Giants signed a tight end, Tualolo, from the Lions. They signed Blake Martinez. Now, Martinez is a guy who's slow. He's not very good in coverage, but Martinez against the run, he's able to tackle. And Martinez is also a Stanford kid. So the Giants are trying to acquire smart football players, smart kids that you could bring home to ma and pa. And that's what Daniel Jones and Martinez is, okay? Smart and tough physical players. I don't know if he's going to be that great, but it's a 3-year, $10 million deal. And then the guy today is even better. He's $4.5 million for 1 year, and it's a prove-it deal. And he's going to be taking the position of Marcus Golden, because I don't think Golden is coming back. Leonard Floyd also on the free agent market as well from Chicago, another guy at that position.
Before we wrap up, I want to move to a serious note. As a sports doc and as a physician, I want to just give everybody a little bit of advice about the coronavirus. This is the biggest week in our nation's history as far as combating the coronavirus. And virtually every state in the union, as well as the governor here in Pennsylvania, have created some remarkable steps. So if you don't have to leave the house, don't go to restaurants, don't congregate in groups. Try to stay in whatever your cell is, your group. And if anybody, now that the actual coronavirus antibody test is available, so if anybody has any constellation of fever, a sore throat, shortness of breath, you need to go and get tested, make sure that you don't have the coronavirus. And if you do have it, you've got to be isolated. So this is a time for hand washing, a time to not meet in groups, where the nation comes together. Let's beat this virus. Let's flatten this curve, and let's get back to normalcy here. So on that note, I want to tell everybody,
I agree.
so many people out there on Bruce Grossinger Facebook, on Rover Sports, Instagram, a lot of people in New York. We could look at people popping up in San Francisco, New York, and Philly, all over the country. So I want to tell everybody, we've had a good run of pods. We've had 2 days where we actually were able to talk about sports, as well as a little Corona mixed in at the end. So in any event, I want to thank you, Spencer J. And for Rover Sports, I'm Bruce Grossinger, signing off. And I'm going to say good night and good sports.